What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to our real estate and construction channel down here in the beautiful state of Texas. And today, for the second time, well, technically, first time on the podcast, second time on our channel, we have Blake Anthony Carter from Austin, Texas. How you doing today, Blake?
Good, man. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. Now I know that we had met up. Wow. I guess what was that? Over a year ago at your flip in Bertram. I know that you're a man who wears many hats, and you're in a lot of different parts of the real estate game. Honored to have you on the show today.
Yeah, I appreciate it. It's been a good bit over a year actually, which is crazy to think about.
Yeah, absolutely. Time flies so fast, Blake. So, I know a lot's been going on with you, and I'm excited to have you on right now. And for those of us who aren't too familiar with you, would you introduce yourself, please?
Yeah. My name is Blake Carter. I am the co-owner and operator of a company called Cribs Consulting. We're a full service turnkey real estate company for short-term rental and co-living investors. So we help people purchase properties, do all the rehab, do all the furnishing and design, and then we manage it as well. But my whole background really comes from all the way like when I was young, when I was a kid, my mom was a partner in a successful mobile home retail business, and they also flipped houses, and they were really successful for a long time. After 2008, when the financial crisis happened, um, basically the entire business was gone, and um, my family's life got turned upside down. We essentially lost everything and went through a completely downward spiral for a period of probably 2 years where we were actually deemed homeless by the city of Austin. And so I got to really see the ugly side of real estate through that. But I also learned a ton about real estate, like pretty much everything you can learn, right? Like all the lending, learning how to do rehabs, learning how to find deals, analyze deals, learning how to just talk to people, customer service, things of that nature. I learned all that from a really young age. When I got into the professional world, I was really scared to jump into real estate after seeing what my mom had went through with that. But eventually did get into real estate through the avenue of property management. That's how I got my start. I was I was basically like your regular leasing agent, right? Like you walk into an apartment, they show you your apartment, they lease you the apartment. I did that for a long time. Eventually, um, worked my way up as much as you really can in that world. And I was the national leasing director for a company called CWS Apartment Homes. They're one of the largest multifamily syndicators in the nation. And they would just send me around the properties in all kinds of different areas, and I would just fix problems, right? So property had low occupancy or low renewal rates or short staffed, they couldn't find people to staff the property with or whatever. I was there with my experience to try to help fix those problems. And so that was a really good experience, having being able to get a ton of different experience in different markets and different people. And then uh, got my real estate license a few years ago now, and I've been investing for about 3 or 4 years as well. And about a year ago, we started our company. Me and my partner Jeremy, we started our company called Cribs. And I told you what we do. We specialize in short-term rentals and co-living, and that's what we do now. So I spend most of my time helping people find deals and do all the renovation, and Jeremy handles all of our design and operations.
Absolutely. And, Blake, I find these sorts of stories so interesting. And I guess really, firstly, would be after 2008, everything changed, right? The economy and also people's perspective and kind of the way that they maybe approach life or approach business. And a lot of those times can be tough for people and really break people. You could have experienced that in 2008 and said, hey, no real estate, never again. I'm washing my hands of it, and that's going to be it. What really motivated you to kind of take that leap of faith and really pursue this industry?
Well, my mom always believed that I had like a really good knack for it. Working in real estate always just came really natural. I understood it very well. I was never interested in like stocks, and I tried to explore different avenues of business, but real estate just always made a lot of sense to me. And so for a long time, I avoided it. But the first time I actually started to invest my money was my first feeling of like real risk. And I was always very risk averse growing up with my money, having seen what my mom had went through. And when I put my money on the line for the first time in like an actual investment, and got a good return, that was kind of like a light switch for me where it was like, yes, it is risky putting your money in anything, but it's risky putting your money into the bank, right? In 2008, people had money in the bank and they lost it. I guess the safest thing you could do is keep cash in your house, but even that is losing value every single day, right? So when I kind of got the mindset shift from my first in real estate investment, I kind of realized the power of that and decided to just go ahead and just go all into real estate. And it's been a couple of years now.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's, and you did a great job of, really breaking down the different parts of the industry from, maybe your initial experience in 2008 to leasing, working for the
Yeah.
multifamily syndicator. And I think that's so neat. And I know that you briefly spoke about, your services and what y'all offer. To you, what's special about the rental business or the management business I mean, you could do anything. You could do construction, development, any facet of the industry. Why this industry? Why invest in what y'all are doing?
Well, we primarily focus on single family rentals, doing the two methods that we do, short-term rentals and co-living. And those are really good options because your cash flow is significantly higher than like a regular long-term rental. And if it's the right deal, you're able to have multiple exit plans, right? So if you can find a deal where not only can you make it a short-term rental, but it'll work as a long-term rental, or you have enough equity in it to where you could sell it if you had to. There's a lot of power in that. And so we we've also worked, or we've also done some multifamily deals, small multifamily, like 2 units, 4 units, and then most recently we did a 14 unit deal that we actually raised the money to purchase. But um, there is a ton of different ways to go within real estate. Obviously, a commercial, right? You could go buy a warehouse or self storage, or people buy parking lots. Like all kinds of stuff. But I really like our business because we're able to really offer a really cool service for people, right? So with co-living, we're renting out houses by the room, basically. Well, it's actually what we're doing, and that's awesome. It's a great feeling to be able to offer some kind of affordable housing in such an expensive market. But the really cool thing about that for the investor is they can buy this single family house that has been shown to appreciate like crazy in a city like Austin over time, and they can cash flow it. That's always been a really big difficult thing for investing in a city like Austin or Portland or some of these like really, really expensive cities, is people want to get that equity piece, right? So like the large upside of investing in real estate, but they can't afford to hang on to these properties because you have a lot of investors that will just, investors from California or even other countries will come and buy these properties in a city like Austin. They'll make them long-term rentals and they'll just be okay with losing $500 a month in the hope that it's going to raise a ton in equity. But we actually offer, between our different methods, the ability to cash flow and get that upside equity in such a strong market like Austin.
Yeah, absolutely. And, with everything going on in the market, obviously we've had a lot of, changes with, supply chain, inflation, obviously people moving to different parts of the country, maybe coming down south to, to the state of Texas. So people are in search of these sorts of, I guess, these sorts of creative strategies, maybe that otherwise wouldn't
Yeah.
be available in other places.
Yeah, 100%. It's funny you mentioned creative strategies. The name of our company is Cribs. It literally stands for Creative Real Estate Investing Business Solutions. And so the thought behind that name was like, we want to help people find solutions to be able to invest in expensive markets. And so we offer these creative solutions that allow people to cash flow in expensive markets.
Absolutely. And, cash flow seems, maybe for a seasoned investor, they would understand what it is. Maybe for someone who's looking to start in the business or they have some cash on hand, they want to invest. Cash flow
Yeah.
kind of seems like a little buzzword, right? Could you explain what cash flow is and how you're able to help people get it?
Yeah, 100%. Cash flow is just a business term that basically just explains the money that you make after all the expenses and your income is accounted for. So if a property creates, let's say, $2,000 a month in income, and your expenses, your mortgage, your taxes, your insurance, your maintenance, any management fees, etc. If all that equals, let's say, $1,800 a month, and your income is $2,000 a month, that $200 delta would be your cash flow. And so one of the beautiful things about real estate is that you can capitalize on cash flow. You can live off of cash flow, especially if you have enough properties, or if you have a property that cash flows enough, you can live off of that cash flow, and you can also have the upside of your equity growing in that property.
Absolutely. Great explanation there on the cash flow bit. And, I know that you mentioned earlier how maybe you have people from California, other countries coming in, and they're cool with, maybe, I guess, on the front end, losing some money and hope that they would gain equity in the property. Could you also speak about, maybe someone, is doing a deal with you? How long would it take for someone to maybe see a return on their money? Is it more of a short-term play or long-term play, or how would that work in terms of your exit strategy?
Yeah. So we actually track our average time from close to operating. So from the time that we're able to get the property closed for our client, through all the renovations that we get done, through furnishing the property, and then once it actually goes live, let's say for like a short-term rental, for example, it's obviously going to be very, very variable based on the level of renovation that the house needs. But we find that our average vacancy time is about 75 days. And that's including any time for renovation, because most of these properties, if you're making them a short-term rental, it needs to be like relatively high end because it is so competitive now. And so we're usually putting about a month to 6 weeks into the rehab. And then it takes about 3 weeks or so to get the property furnished. All that usually combines to be somewhere in the realm of 75 days on average from close to operating. And then for our rent by room strategy, you need to put much less into the rehab. And so our close to operating time frame is about 45 days. Furnishing those properties only takes about a week, and getting them renovated and rehabbed is a much less nuanced, right? So most time we're only just kind of freshening it up, and we might add a couple bedrooms into the house, but that only takes about 3 or 4 weeks. And so our average close to operating time frame for our rent by rooms is only 45 days.
Okay. Yeah. Great insight there. And, it was great that you really drew out that explanation about, obviously, buying, closing the properties and then, adding value to them as well. I'm sure this also takes a bit of research as well. How are you able to identify, I guess, maybe without getting into the weeds on the underwriting, how are you able to identify what makes a good deal and what makes a bad deal for short-term rentals for y'all?
Yeah. Our initial analysis, we look for a ratio of 20% of the income to the purchase price. And that's a very general rule. Speaking about like long-term rentals, you hear a lot of people talk about the 1% rule. This is similar for short-term rentals. We look at the 20% rule, to where we want to see the expected income to be about 20% of the purchase price, or I would say at least 15 to 20%. And it also depends on the level of rehab needed, but on average, that's like a very quick way to analyze a property, to even think, or to even see if you should do like a deep dive on it.
Yeah, absolutely. Great insight there on the research as well. And, really to get it in front of people who would, I guess, be your tenants or your renters, right? Would this be, when you say short-term rentals, are you putting this on Airbnb or VRBO, or would it be away from those platforms, or how would it work?
Um, well, every company, like every management company, does it a little bit different as far as like what websites they're going to put their properties on. Us personally, we are listed on Airbnb, VRBO, Booking.com, and we have a direct booking platform as well. But you'll see some companies that will list on just Airbnb and VRBO, or they just list on Airbnb and they have a direct booking platform. We have the ability and the capacity to list on all three. Or we're just now introducing Booking.com because Booking.com setup is a little bit archaic. But anyways, for the past year or so, we've been listed on Airbnb and VRBO. We just went live with our direct booking site, and we're working through that, and we are integrating all of our properties onto Booking.com as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And great insight there as well. And I'm curious as well, you talked a bit about, kind of the, you being able to buy the properties, rehab them, and then obviously your exit strategy would be renting them out. And I guess with that comes risk, right? So a lot of people, will need, especially if you have a loan, need some sort of insurance. Could you speak about the insurance piece as well, and what sort of insurance you would use for these deals?
Yeah, insurance is super important, man. That's actually like one of the most major things that my clients find is finding the right type of insurance, working with the right insurance company that's reputable. Um, w- we've worked with a slew of different companies, um, and a slew of different type of policies. As far as insurance goes, it's really important that people know that they need to have a short-term rental specific policy or something customized and set up that gives them the same type of coverage. Your typical landlord policy isn't the right way to go, because there's a lot of things that are excluded, and that wouldn't be covered in the case of like a short-term rental specific policy.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's some great insight there as well. Maybe on its face, it looks like you would need a landlord, just a landlord policy, like you said. But, when you're doing these very specific deals, that would also entail having a very specific type of insurance policy.
Yep, 100%.
Yeah, absolutely, Blake. And you've done a great job explaining, a bit about what you do. And I'm curious about you. We're approaching the end of a very interesting year. With all these different things going on in the market, and I know that you have big plans. Could you maybe talk to our audience a bit more about what you're looking for and who you're looking to connect with?
Yeah, yeah. Well, we're always looking to connect with people that are interested in investing in um, really high growth markets, which is the markets that we work in, specifically in Austin, Texas, but are also interested in creating a business out of cash flow. And the reason I say like a business out of cash flow is because these methods that we use are able to generate enough cash flow to where you can really create a real business out of it. We have clients that are generating in just pure cash flow. I've seen numbers as high as $5,000 to $8,000 a month, and that's just pure cash flow on some of these properties, depending on the size, right? Like those are those are probably going to be like your more high end luxury type properties that are getting that higher end cash flow. But even if someone just had $50,000 or so to invest, and they wanted to put that into a short term rental, there's plenty of deals that we find that will give them an additional 1,000, 2,000, 3,000 plus dollars in pure cash flow. And so really in anyone that's interested in doing any kind of investing that will allow them to cash flow and take advantage of these high growth markets, that people who are looking to connect with. But really anyone that wants to talk investing, I'm always open to it. They can find me on social media. But yeah.
Yeah, sounds great, Blake. And I know, maybe you had maybe mentioned earlier, but, is there anything that you haven't said thus far you'd really just like to hit home for our audience?
Um, I guess one thing I can mention is there's a lot of talk right now about interest rates and what the real estate market is going to do. One thing that I'm talking my clients through is there's a ton of benefits to investing in real estate in any kind of market, and interest rates are definitely a thing, but so are the prices that are getting affected by interest rates. And there's over the next year going to be probably one of the biggest buying opportunities that we'll ever see. We don't know how deep that is going to be. We don't know how severe that is going to be. But if you can find a deal right now, anytime from now to within the next year or so, you're likely going to get one of the better deals that you would look back on and be so glad that you took advantage of. And so what I've been telling people is, even if the interest rate is high, even if you're concerned about a falling market or anything like that, if you can find a property that cash flows, that has a good backup plan, that you can sell easily, um, real estate is the place to put your money. Because even just outside of the things that we talk about, equity and cash flow, there's also huge tax benefits, right? And there's huge benefits for just your legacy. That's one thing that a lot of investors that I work with love about real estate is they get to buy tons of properties, and when they pass away one day, they can leave that to their family, and it's a real legacy. So very few things that are more powerful than real estate when it comes to investing. And over the next year is going to be one of the biggest opportunities to take advantage of that.
Yeah, well said, well said. And I guess with all the information out there, it's really nice to kind of see someone like yourself really providing this sort of service that I think is so cool. Obviously, a hot market like Austin, you providing a great service and helping people get those returns and doing it at a special time, you said, right? So a great opportunity to buy and yeah, great insight.
Yeah, appreciate it, man.
Definitely, Blake. So for, we'll have this in the show notes, but could you, could you speak about, where people can find you if we're looking to connect? Maybe we're somewhere here in Texas and Austin, another part of the country, want to connect with you. Where can we find you?
Yeah, our website is cribsconsulting.com. That's where you can learn a little bit more about what we do. But if you want to reach out to me directly, my Instagram is blake.anthony.carter. That's my name, Blake Anthony Carter. So you can find me on Facebook and LinkedIn as well. Um, I'm always happy to chat about real estate with anyone.
Okay, solid, Blake. Well, it's been great sitting down with you, talking a bit about, your background, what really motivates you to do real estate. Obviously, a lot of the short-term rental game, and really, being able to, like we talked about, providing that good service and those returns for people, regardless of what the market does. So it's been a real encouraging talk with you, and we appreciate you coming on the show today.
Thanks, man. I appreciate that. I appreciate you having me.
Sure thing. We'll talk to you later.